In this video, we're going to prepare our power supply for use. We'll come back to soldering later, but for now make sure that your power supply is unplugged. Heat your soldering iron up. Use the soldering iron tip to heat the wire and add some solder to the wire. A common mistake is the expectation that the heat will transfer from the solder iron tip to the wire instantly. You've got to wait a few moments before the wire will heat up and the solder will melt into the wire. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of solder to the tip of the soldering iron. This will give it a little bit more surface area, a little bit more contact between the tip of the soldering iron and the wire. Once the wire is hot enough, as you touch the solder to the wire, you'll see the solder liquefy and soak into the wire. If you've added enough solder, when you trim the end, you'll see that the solder has penetrated the whole way through. Be sure you get all of the individual strands of wires. Don't leave any hanging around like this one. It's easy to fix. Get your fingers and twist the wires together to neaten this up. Now I'm going to repeat the process. Heat the wire, add the solder to the wire, keep your soldering iron clean. Now we'll take a little piece of strip board. A piece 1 or 2 centimeters square will be just fine. We'll put 4 blobs of solder on our strip board. Just remember that 2 blobs of solder need to be on the same track. We'll solder our wires into these 4 blobs of solder. The process is the same. Heat up the copper, add the solder to the copper, and the solder will melt onto the copper. Now we'll solder the wires onto those copper blobs. This time, because the solder is already there, all we need to do is heat up the 2 pieces and they will join. If you're new to soldering, it's a good idea to separate the connections with a little gap like this. This way, if you accidentally solder 2 tracks together, it won't create a short. Now we'll get a piece of red and black solid core wire and solder it to the other end. This way, at a glance, we can see without confusion our positive and our negative. Many DC components are sensitive if you mix up your positive and negative. And there we have, our power supply is now mounted. This mounting gives some degree of flexibility to how we use our power supply. These solid core red and black wires could go straight into our proto board. In the future, you could unsolder these wires and put another test cable or some other arrangement for use.